Hello, welcome back to the Speaking of Tea podcast, where we talk about all things tea, poetry, and the lifestyle surrounding the two. I am your host, Rachelle, an author, a healer, a writing coach, a tea connoisseur, if you will. I have so many different titles, and I won't bore you with all the details. You'll probably pick it up over time, though, if you've been listening to this. Today I am drinking some dong ding. No, I did not say ding dong. It is not ding dong. It is dong ding, the mountain in Taiwan. If you need reference. If you're only listening to the audio, I am showing a picture of this on the camera. Video podcast. Dong ding mountain. Oh, and now there's different ways to produce the dong ding. But this style, and probably my most favorite, is when it's more roasty. It can be like a chocolate roasted or other whatever styles of roasting element. But there's when you got oolong, you can have like very lightly oxidized, very floral, kind of grassy sort of tones. But then also you get the roasty, which just hits the heart differently. At least if you're more into the kind of darker roasty flavors, like I am. On the other hand, it might be more of a green, lightly floral kind of person, and that's cool. It serves its purpose. It serves, there's all different seasons and moments of tea, but hey, it is now November. We're after the first week of November. It's like the 10th today, and roasty definitely hits the heart. Realistically all year round. This is me smelling the leaves, and I'm just going to try to show it to the camera here. They're little balled up pieces. It's lovely. Anyways, I'm going to pour them right into this pot and get going with tasting it instead of just talking about it. Is my pot still warm? Not too much. Let's see. Well, I can smell it a bit, but let's just start steeping it. I did have an intention to talk about a few different elements of gongfu cha and how it activates the five senses. And I will get into that. I'm going to just have this first steep, and you are basically just going to see how it hits, because it hits. I'm using a nice teapot that's like egg-shaped style. And those are kind of nice for oolongs, the ones that kind of open up, widen. It's really nice for ones that are like longer spirally leaf, because they can actually fit in there without having to crush any of the leaves. Keep them fully in their form when you're steeping, or when you're putting them in the leaves in there to steep. Obviously, they get loose and sit, whatever, right, and float once they have already been steeped. But you really don't want to break any of the leaves before you get to that point. Apparently the camera is the microphone for me today. Alright, I'm going to pour a little cup for Spirit over here, and I'm going to pour a cup for myself. And as always, cheers. Oh, wow. That's amazing. The flavor, the texture of this just moves around the mouth. Like, I receive it at my lips. I feel it in like sort of the, not quite the tip of my tongue, but then the sides, and then it travels upwards and goes around. It's this like nice roasty feeling that dances on your tongue and everywhere. And oh my gosh, I want more. It's still so cooling and refreshing when I breathe in fresh air after it, which is the mark of it being more organically grown, because it might be totally organic. I'm not entirely sure. But it's a good mark of it possibly being organic, is that if you can feel that kind of almost not minty freshness, because it doesn't taste anything like mint, but that's what you kind of, you have to taste it to really fully understand that. But oh, but wow. Because it's not like eating campfire, because that's more like lapsang souchong. But you can see the logs burning when you drink this. Let's put it that way. It's amazing. Sensational. Drink roasty tea. That's all I have to say about that. And good night and goodbye. I'll be honest, this is my sort of third time having some of this tea today. So like first thing this morning, because I just needed to kind of jet out of the house to deliver some tea to the Broken Bow here in town. They order mecha tea and serve it at the restaurant, which is really cool. Actually, the only restaurant that's been doing that. But hey, if you have a restaurant and you want some, well, mecha tea, because mecha tea is great. Well, I care about what I'm sourcing. And I bring in high-end products, things that people aren't just quite used to, having everywhere, and it's fully nice loose leaf tea. And I'm right, rather than just tea bags, get a little amount and it's pretty dusty. Put it that way. Hair flip. And then you also know it's coming from moi, who gives you the greatest demonstrations on how awesome tea is, basically having orgasms on the screen. So, I mean, whew, what better can you get? I'm kidding. But I do care about what I'm sourcing, but also some of my other blends go there. So, Jasmine in a Gun is a popular one. Gunpowder, and I'm crush up a bunch of jasmine flowers and put in it. It's just so floral and nice. Green tea. And so on. Anyways, yeah, so I had like a re-steep of this one that I actually had to going like 2 days ago. I'm a raccoon. We talked about this before. And then, I don't know, later I believe I was on a mastermind call, so I was steeping some lapsang souchong actually. And then later my client came in for our writing sessions with my Pen to Soul program. And so as he's sitting here doing his writing, I'm steeping for us, and I'm like, so what would you like? We got some white, green, black, oolong. And I'm like, not saying dong ding, but basically almost. And he's like, well, I like stuff like ganmaicha, the roasty. I'm like, so I just got some dong ding. You're going to love it. He's like, what are you holding out on me for? Basically, I'm like, I was just going to have it later when I record the podcast, but you know what? Whatever. We're going to have it here and I'm going to have it later. So, I never trying to hold out on people. It's just, I have plans, but whatever. Hey, that's part of the price of the Pen to Soul program, especially when mainly, I guess, when we're working in person, because if you're across the world and we're going over Zoom, it's a bit of a different story, but I'm likely to supply you with some tea in that case. We just haven't had that yet. We've had in-person clients at this point, so I sit here and I steep while you do your writing, whatever it is that your mission is. So, steeps ahoy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna drink this. I mean, God invented fire, right? That's how we got roasty tea. it was just the sun, we'd pick the leaves, lay them out in the sun, and be pretty much green tea, or, well, white teas. White teas. Or, well, yeah, sheng pours as well. Maybe green depending on how you end up doing it, but sheng pours are also just like barely processed, and then they press the leaves right into the cakes. So, yeah, thank goodness for charcoal and fire. No, I got a little fluff in there. I do not want to sip fluff. I'm going to turn that, and hopefully I don't get my hands all red because of the lipstick that's getting on the cup and I turn it around. Now to the part of like describing different the five senses with tea, and especially with gongfu cha, because as I was talking about in the last episode, I am opening up spaces for teaching tea ceremony. Well, gongfu cha, as this is, but still the ceremonial aspect of having tea, the very meditative and grounding, a way to really nurture your tea drinking. It's mindfulness practice. It's a way to be a lot more involved with what you're drinking, rather than you might buy your favorite tea from the grocery store or wherever you get it, and they're prepared in the tea bags, but you miss out on a lot of the process, a lot of the experience of what the tea really has to offer, and the craftsmanship that goes behind the leaves. So anyways, what I was kind of looking at earlier, okay, so the five senses, right? Taste, touch, smell, sound, and sight, right? So the ones that are obvious, right, is taste, right? We're tasting the tea. Obviously, this is why we buy favorite ones in any form, right? For some, maybe it's just for the caffeine, and then really it's about adding your milk and sugar to it. That's a whole other topic that I don't even want to talk about. Very far from what I practice. I just so rare. If milk, well, and it's only going to be plant-based milk for me. If milk goes into my tea, it's because it's a matcha or a chai latte, and it's a latte, right? This is an intentional beverage. Anyway, so taste, obvious. Touch is a little bit more about the warmth of the cup in your hand when when you want to slow down and have a cup of tea because it's grounding and it's warm and it's comforting, that warmth that you're holding in a cup, and it's most often a mug if you're not practicing gongfu cha, right? You get that full cup warmth of right? And the touching on your lips. Smell, of course, you're gonna open up that box. You love the smell of it, or the smell of it can draw you in or put you off. Those are quite obvious. Now, sound and sight are a little bit, less worked with, I guess, right? So now first I'm going to touch on sight, because for some people, the sight of the tea leaves, or for others who are a bit more about focus on blends, right? You see all the flowers mixed in with the tea, and like it just looks awesome and alluring and beautiful. So I'm gonna stop it there on where sight is more often experienced in that form. However, lovers of gongfu cha are really in love with, like in the beginning of this, I was showing you the leaves. They're these tiny little rounded rolled up balls that then do open up, expand. Actually, without disturbing my session too much, but now these are wet, they've opened up a little, and then they'll open up even more. They kind of like crinkly now, which is really fun. So here's the extra part: when you start getting gongfu cha, you're pulling out the leaves, you're actually examining them, and once they steep out some more, and you can like open up the full leaf. Now these actually look like smaller leaves, and traditionally oolong actually came from the larger leaves of the plant. Something about black dragon is actually like the true translation of it from Chinese, and the legend behind it, without going too far off topic at the moment, I'll get back to it though. The legend of it basically is that tea farmer's son tells the boy to go out and pick some leaves, and he's really lazy. He doesn't want to do it. He's just like dilly dallying around, taking naps in the field. So basically he just like to get because the when you're going to be selling the leaves, you're just going to like you're kind of going for a weight amount, and people get paid by the weight of the leaves that they're selling. And so he just went and picked up all the bigger leaves off of the plant. And so where the traditional processing was actually picking the buds, the lighter stuff, the freshly grown spring new leaf buds that are growing in the spring. I'm reiterating what I'm just saying. And a large collection of those ends up equaling out more weight and you get paid. But he was just picking the big leaves to fill up his basket and go fast about it. But then he like took a nap and then like saw a rabbit and went chasing after the rabbit, and then all the leaves that were in his basket were just getting shooken around and messed up. The leaves were flying out. So then he finally gets back to his dad. He's like, "Sorry, Dad," and he's just like, "Oh my God, son, really?" So now the leaves are all messed up and broken up and twisted and over oxidized because you're supposed to get right back there for processing when it's a green tea, right? The green tea gets fired right away. That's why it maintains its green color versus black. It's oxidizing and fermenting. Voila. So anyway, they do end up bringing the leaves to, I don't know if it's like a king or emperor or someone like that, but then they end up like finishing it, and then they absolutely love it because there's something so special and unique about it. Now, more kind of like you finish like roasty, and then it's this other like it, and then it just became this prize thing. And so then the son actually didn't screw up that much. He actually basically invented a new form of tea, and voila. So accidents can be great. Same as the story of similar to the story of lapsing and black tea, actually. Wow, that all went off the tangent of sight, what the leaves actually look like, right? And so we can compare that to like a really nice white tea. Green teas where you get really buddy, or they can be like really spiral leaf, they can be flattened, like can't think of the name right now, that's okay. Like nope, that's okay. Gunpowder, really rolled up green, etc. So then oolongs, we've got the kind of long twisty ones or these balled up ones. And black tea can be also like long and twisted or just like small, but you see like the little buds on them. So it's like mostly black with like little brown hairy little buds, and that's different. And then pour, you got the show pour and the shang pour later, or very dark fermented. So like you look at it and you're like, whoa. And then you see some buds, you see some very hairy tipped leaves, and you see a mixture of that all together in that pour. So there's so many visuals that go with tea, that when you're buying just like tea bags, you really miss out on the whole experience of full loose leaf. This is why we're so obsessed. All right, and so we talked about taste, touch, smell, and sight. Now sound, okay? Doing gongfu cha really does induce the effect of sound. So one, that was me slurping it. Okay. And then, so here we go. I'm going to turn the microphone around and you can just listen to the water pouring over the leaves. One, there is the moment of like hearing a Japanese garden and like a little like sound thing like water over bamboo, right? We also got these nice clay pots. And then hearing the sound of that going together, the lid onto the teapot. And the sound of the clay is different than the sound of ceramic. This is the sound of like a more of a cast iron pot, right? And then here's the beautiful part. We're going to pour it out into the fairness pitcher. And then a special element for myself, and just even the placing of objects onto the table. And when I ring the bell, but that's not the tea itself. But anyways, even the placing of objects on the table, there's something about how in my own process that, like, I know I'm literally lifting the cup or am pouring it, but I actually just do this thing where I tap the surface of the next object before I'm pouring into it, because I don't know, it sort of connects them and it sort of physically, emotionally prepares me and directs the pouring for me. It's hard to explain. It's sort of just a habit I've developed, and it's not really something I quite describe to myself. It just is, but I'd like to just try to make it make sense for people. Now, tap it too before I lift. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to describe sound on a podcast because podcasts are all sound, unless you're watching the video. But I'm sure there's a lot of people listening on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify or just like YouTube Music, right? You're not watching me the whole time. You're doing your dishes or something. I don't know if my podcast is exactly what you want to do while you're doing the dishes, but I'd say I'm kind of entertaining. So, just put that thought in your head. Listen to me while you do your dishes, and you hear a little bit of poetry and the clanging of teapots, and surrender to the serenity. Ooh. Now, what did we say earlier? It was surrender to the sensations. Oh. Right, so then, yeah, taste, touch, smell, sound, sight. And another thing, actually, too, I want to note is that we tea lovers also love to look at the color that is produced from the tea, especially in a nice glass fairness pitcher, or if you might have a glass teapot that you're steeping in, or a glass cup, whatever, right? So you only want at least one of these elements to be clear so you can see the color. You can kind of see this sort of like sunsetty gold sort of look in this one. And that tells you multiple things, either what this tea is actually, the color that it's making itself, and you also will be seeing the development of color when you're doing your multiple steeps. It's going to be a little bit lighter in the first one or two, especially during your rinse. I didn't rinse with this one just because with the roastiness, I just didn't want to give any away. And like even this steep right here, it's not even as dark as other rounds that I was doing earlier, and I think I did use a smaller amount of leaves because I'm like, okay, again, I've had a fair amount of tea already today, so I didn't want to be steeping too much. And so this is even like a richer, darker color than even what you're seeing right now. So I'm just going to wrap up that conversation about the five senses. That's so basically, when I'm offering these tea ceremony lessons, these are the kinds of things that I will be guiding you to be paying attention to. Why? Because then you get the full experience of the tea ceremony, of really turning off other elements around you. Because when you have all these different things that you can notice and focus on, and not because you're being tested to be aware of all these things, like you're not going to be graded at the end. Truly, when you're having tea, you are removing yourself from having awareness of anything else around you. And your main goal is to steep the best cup of tea possible. Because you're the one enjoying it. Or you might be steeping for guests, and you want to make the best cup of tea for them possible. You understand what I'm saying? So that can be your main goal, and that could be your main goal for an hour. And for those of you who live such busy lives, distracted lives, what have you, maybe you don't have another form of meditation that works for you, because sometimes just choosing to sit down and say, I'm meditating now. It doesn't exactly turn everything off, but having these different elements of things to work with and focus on, you don't really have time to think about other things. You don't have time to think about what that other person is doing, or what needs to be cleaned, or what other tasks or what bills need to be paid. You are here in this moment, enjoying this to your fullest. That's the mindful benefits of this practice. Last little note I left on the next page is presence is everything. Presence is everything. Oh, and I probably shouldn't leave without sharing this little haiku that I wrote during my client session earlier. He had his cup, and while he was writing, he's sitting up on the couch, his leg was up and tucked into the other, whatever. But the cup was there full while he was writing. I mean, it's not crazy impressive balance. It's still impressive balance, So I wrote a haiku. Now here's a few takes on it, but little cup of tea, stone gray with rough edges, is balanced on my knee. Or little cup of tea sitting balanced on my knee, smells of roasted leaf. Little cup of tea sitting balanced on my knee, tastes of roasted leaf. Little cup of tea sitting balanced on my knee, perfectly poised. I think now I think about it, I would probably go more with the smells of roasted leaf. That might be really my final take. Okay, and so like a little poetry, we might say lesson, or I'm going to go more with the poetry analysis as a term here. Why I'm making that kind of choice. So the first take on it is much more of a physical description. Little cup of tea, stone gray with rough edges, is balanced on my knee. Haiku 575 on the lines, syllables. And it's nice, but I kind of actually enjoyed tea and knee being in the first line, second line. So that's kind of why I redid it into the next version. Smell a little cup of tea sitting balanced on my knee, just because that rhyme is fun. And it literally is that, right? Not messing with rhymes here. It's like cup of tea on my knee. Oh, that's it. That's where it all came from. And I had to make a haiku out of it because why not? Smells of roasted leaf. So in leaf you can kind of smudge that into a rhyme if you feel like it. That's not entirely the point there, but then that gives you a little bit more of a sensual experience. So little cup of tea, you can visualize that sitting balanced on my knee. Okay, like so that it gives you more of a visual that the way that it's sitting, right? Little cup is sitting there, obviously. Smells of roasted leaf. And that was me wanting to take the poem just a step farther to evoke more senses. Because it could just be all physical description. But your poem or haikus is kind of especially, you do want to actually pack in more meaning into such a small space. So yeah, that's why I wanted to, okay, so we get the visual, but we can also almost smell it, right? Well, literally. I'm telling you to smell it. Right? And then that gives you also that sense of coziness. that cozy comfort warmth of a teacup, so that the cup could actually be sitting there getting cold, but you feel that sense of warmth through the word roasted, because I'm telling you to smell it, but you're also probably starting to imagine that it's a warm sensation. I'll just read it one more time so that we can finish off with that. Little cup of tea sitting balanced on my knee, smells of roasted leaf. Voila. Here's your little poetry adage of the day. Adage? No, I don't know. Cheers. Just gonna let that sit and steep a little bit. I had my scale sitting here because I want to just talk a little bit about measuring your leaves. Because again, when we're going with tea bags, we pretty much just do 1 or 2, bags because of the amount of flavor it tends to give. And so when we're going gongfu cha, it's not always obvious how much we're truly putting into the cup. So you might measure it by like a teaspoon or like a couple of teaspoons into this guy. It sounds like a lot, but when you're doing quick short steeps, then you're re-steeping a whole bunch, like 8 times, whatever, then whatever, right? So you're just measuring then your timing with the perfect steeping time, etc. So, but on the other hand, we actually like to weigh the leaves. And so I typically will be using 5 or 6 grams at a time. Sometimes depends on the tea, its quality, its strength, or whatever. Really, especially high-end tea that's coming from West Home down southern Vancouver Island. It is so potent in small amounts that you only need like 2.5 grams at a time. And that seeps really strong and good. So amazing. But so I just want to kind of show you. I use this little scale. I bought this at a marijuana shop, so very easy to come by when you're living in Canada. You can get this little scale, and it's great. So I will do that. I put a little thing like this onto the scale, turn it on, put my leaves in there, and that way you really get to know, because with oolongs, right, they're heavier, they're more smaller, tightly packed. And so it might look like a small amount, but you've already got 5 or 6 grams right there. Versus, maybe more of a longer twisted style of oolong. This thing's going to look like it's totally overflowing, and it'll be the same amount. And so, you just kind of get to know that the teas that you're using. But you also don't kind of want to, you also don't want to short yourself and be like, oh, it's not really steeping all that much. Because then if you bring back the amount that you put into the pot, if you bring it into the scale, then you're like, oh, that's because I only got like 2.5 grams, but this oolong was so small, right? That does come along with just, as I said, getting to know the leaves that you're using. And it's a bit hard to keep up if you are addicted to exploring all different kinds of tea like crazy, because you're a nerd like me. So it's not like I'm sitting there steeping the same one for a month straight because I bought a bag of it. Like, come on. There's a lot that I am going through and trying and tasting all the time, right? It's like, oh no, I've totally oversteeped that. Nah, it's really fine. Won't get bitter on me. But in Pokemon, gotta catch them all. Gotta steep them all. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To steep them is my true test. Oh no, I messed that up. To find them is my real test. To steep them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide, teaching children to understand the power that's inside. Gongfu cha, gotta steep 'em all. Filk! 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 That's the word oh my gosh, people were using this like over a month ago at a medieval fair. And you take a song and then you rewrite it with different lyrics, basically. It's a filk. Huh, that's the word. Totally forgot. Been trying to think about that for a while. So that's my filk on the Pokemon theme song. Gongfu cha! And it fits. The syllables fit. If any of you need reminding, the term gongfu cha is the name of this tea practice, or the tea ceremony as you see it. Gongfu, like the word kung fu, which is a skill that is developed over time. So really, I practice gongfu cha because I'm always learning and trying new teas, as I was saying, and learning to steep them. So it's constantly a practice because I'm constantly finding new ones, and it's forever a rabbit hole until I die, which is beautiful. Anyway. So, like, gotta catch them all, and, they keep inventing new Pokemon, and there's always gonna be a new tea out there. Whew. I was really disappointed the other day, by the way, when I saw a freaking vacuum Pokemon. A vacuum? A vacuum. Really? Anyway, I quickly recovered after that when I finally beat Giovanni in Pokemon Go, by the way. Yeah. That was great. I've been trying to beat this guy for over a year. I figured I'd need an actual legendary Pokemon, and you really need to go with like a party to fight the raids at the gyms to get something strong enough to beat him. That's what I figured. But during Halloween time, a bunch of more Teddiursa were coming out, and you can evolve Teddiursa into its final form, Ursaluna, under the full moon. So I was waiting for a full moon to happen to finally do my evolution. Got it, did it, evolved it, and that was the ticket. That's what beat Giovanni for me. I forget who else I had going there. I don't know if Machamp was fighting someone else, but anyway, it was Ursaluna that did it. I don't know. I feel like he kind of fudged the other guys. For some reason, they kind of just like stop fighting or like really slow on their moves. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he like stunned them. I looked it up. It doesn't seem like it's possible, but whatever. Ursaluna is the winner. So, side rant. I play a lot of Pokemon Go. And I almost choked on that. Thank goodness I didn't. I'm going to take a moment of silence with this tea. Or not. How often in your day do you experience genuine joy? Like genuine joy. It doesn't even have to be about something crazy and big and magnificent that happened in your life, but do you experience genuine joy and deep-chested laughter? And you might if you smoke weed and you get a lot of laughs and stuff. And that's like another avenue to experience such a thing. But I find tea lovers just have a different air of their experience. That is not experienced the same way with coffee. Yeah. And I know I'm wild because I'm like Aquarius and stuff, but still, there's something else. There's something else when the tea spirit is within you. So, I think I'm going to leave this podcast here. No, I didn't read you enough poetry. I'm going to leave you off with one poem from Emptiness of the Way. Did I tell you I'm going to be republishing these into a full single book? It's time. Alright, this one's called Cobweb of Truth. I know we're a little after Halloween, but hey, it is way too early. Side rant. It is way too early for us to be celebrating Christmas. There have already been 2 Christmas fairs in this small town that I live in. I'm getting worked up here. But you know what? No. The crazy, I definitely don't barely go into stores these days anyways, but it does not deserve 2 months of those repetitive songs in our ear brainwaves, you know? Like, it's not like it's helping us get into spirit. Not really. Just inducing more and more consumerism and making you normal and okay with that. Capitalism owns Christmas. Santa loves money. That's a song I was actually going to start. Santa loves money. Bring out your money, buy for Santa, because he doesn't just bring them to your house. Sorry, kids. Eek. I mean, which is fine. I don't know. Having more spaces for artists to bring their wares and share and sell them is fantastic, and obviously I'm a big fan of that and everything. At the same time, is it the Christmas spirit or is it consumerism? That's the question I'm going to leave you with today, and I'm going to read Cobweb of Truth. In the haunted house of the world I write, how the spider spins, it is surely a work of art. A spider has woven a web around my heart, tickled my pinky finger. The spider shows me the way to building the flower of life, connecting the dots, seeing a project to its completion, to the interconnectedness of my companions, wispy strings gluing it all together. I am the spider of mastery, weaving my web to perfection. Every past web gets torn apart, frayed, weathered, but this one I shall complete. This one will last. 8 legs of infinity, a fly caught in the web reminds us, being aware of death is a virtue. Release what was tainted in this twisted world of deceit. Find gratitude. I hope you have a lovely week, and I will be seeing you soon. Cheers.